Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Things We Know. I'm Lisa Callahan.
And I'm Karen Morin. And today we're back again to talk about hormones. Changes.
Don't think that's what Bowie meant when he wrote that.
No, it wasn't at all. But I think about it all the time because everything's changing.
Yeah.
And we have a really special guest we're super excited to have back. And before we get to her awesomeness, I just want to first laugh about the fact that Lisa and I share how we have a lot of similarities. And we are also not having at all the same experience with quote unquote the change. And I'm definitely not having the worst experience, but it is not a picnic. As we came in here, we're all red. We were all wearing the same matching kimonos, which we'll have to throw on for the viewers. But we were too hot to keep them on. So
I can't put mine on now. I am sweating right now.
We're going to have to just take a photo at the end real quick and muscle through it. But what's funny about this, Lisa, is here we are finally, talking about these things. And we have like a 3-part series going, which is great because I think everybody's in some version of this. Like no one, as our wonderful guest is about to tell us, no one's going to avoid it.
Yeah. And you're right. You and I have talked about this a lot. 2 things come to mind. One, I don't think I'm having, my experience seems to be relatively easy. The main thing I have is getting hot for sure. It happens to me exactly at 8:30 every night, which is super weird. Yeah, it's really weird. Like I'm sitting on Amy's giving. For those of you who are listening to this, I am going to implore you to watch the YouTube because I have a feeling this one's going to be funny to watch. But at 8:30 every night, I'm like, oh, there it is. And I'm like I could be freezing. And at 8:30, I'm like kicking shit off and I'm pulling these off. And yes, we all have the same kimono, which we will throw on maybe at the tail end, but I can't put it on right now because I am damp.
Yes. And remember, you didn't want this pod to be about that. Remember?
I definitely didn't want anything to be about menopause, but if I'm going to have something be about menopause, this is the perfect guest because Amy Pickard, you met her a couple episodes ago talking about advanced planning and good to go. Obviously a passion project. So on board with that. But this one is a funny passion project. And she coined the phrase Cougar Puberty. So welcome back, Amy. Tell us what Cougar Puberty means.
Well, it's just my sort of more woke terminology instead of menopause, because I feel like men aren't pausing. Men have nothing to do with this. There seems to be a cultural tolerance for women suffering. And if my cosmic calling wasn't helping people prepare for their deaths, I would definitely take up the Cougar Puberty mantle and go from door to door and scream and shout and beg the entire world and medical community to hear us women. Because we're going through the change and there's not a lot of information about it. And even when I went to my female doctor, I told her my symptoms, which were not on the internet anywhere that I found. And she just looked at me and just said, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that during menopause. I was like, all righty then. Well, I'll just live with it and suffer in silence. I don't know. So I'm just...
If there's one thing you're not going to do, it's sitting in silence.
Right.
Only death can silence Amy Pickard. I mean, let's be real. But no, I was... To be serious, it was really traumatizing. And
I bet.
I thought I was dying of a heart attack because I was having incredible heart palpitations. Like my heart was literally flip-flopping. And then it just felt very irregular, the heartbeats. And I rushed myself to urgent care and they did an EKG. And the male doctor came in with the results and he knocked on the door. I said, come on in. And he went, well, it's official. You have a heart and men don't. Anyway, you're probably going to have heart disease for the rest of your life. You're probably going to have to be on medication. You need to see a doctor. There's a tiny blip on the EKG and you need to see a doctor as soon as possible. And I said, well, I've got a doctor appointment in 2 days. Is that good enough? He said, no, you need to go now. So I got in the car, literally thinking I'm driving myself to Cedars-Sinai for open heart surgery, and I managed to get into my doctor, who was freakishly open until 8 p.m. because this was like 6 p.m. And it was a female. She said, we'll do another EKG, because I took the one from urgent care and showed it to her. She did the results and she said, look, this is normal during menopause. And if I had this result, I would not be remotely worried, but I will send you to a cardiologist and you can get an ultrasound and all that for you to feel better, but you're fine. Don't think that this is crazy and abnormal. And I wanted to literally drive back to that urgent care and choke that doctor.
Yeah.
And because it feels like every cell of estrogen that's left my body has been replaced by patriarchal rage. And so I was just like, I don't want other women to go through this. This pisses me off,
Yeah.
And then also for about 2 years, I was incredibly depressed. And because I'm a naturally positive person, and I was kind of born with a ray of sunshine up my ass, as my family used to joke, I just felt I wasn't doing enough. I just thought I just thought that I'm going through a rough time right now and I'm in it, and this is just how it has to be. And then I started feeling resentful of friends, insecure about certain things, and just completely self-absorbed in that depression cloud of everybody hates me, nobody likes me, I guess I'll go eat worms, and
Remember that song?
yeah. And I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was going crazy. I felt very alone. I started going back to therapy, and I was like crying to my therapist, and he said, I promise you the old Amy is there. You just have to find her, And so then I just went through a process of trying to find the old Amy,
And you said just full transparency, we started this and we had to stop and restart it. So I want to reflect something you said the first time we were recording, which was you went to your girlfriends and said, I think I'm going through menopause. And they were all like, nah, you're too young. And I started to ask this question. This is where Zoom got stuck. It felt like gaslighting to you, which makes total sense. I also wonder, because in the coaching world, we say everything has a positive intention behind what somebody says or does, right? And so to me, I wonder if the quote unquote positive intention was, if you're going through menopause and they're your same age, are they like, you're not old enough? Because that means I'm old enough. You're not old enough.
They weren't gaslighting. They were in denial, is what you're saying.
100%. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, kind of all of the above.
Sure.
I mean, everybody I said, they were like, well, when was your last period? And I was like, a year, and they're like, oh, well, you can't be. I mean, well, no, that can't be. That can't be. And I'm like, oh, it can be.
And can we just talk about that for a second? Like, I know people who didn't have periods for a really long time before they have the symptoms. So I don't know why that's always the question that ends the conversation. I don't know how that matters. Like, sure, that's true. I'm officially in menopause as of recently because of the last period, but that doesn't mean I didn't feel, batshit crazy long ago.
I know.
And for me, that's one of the reasons I don't 100% know, because I've had an IUD since Charlotte was born. So I haven't had a period in 18 years. Does that mean I've been in my, no, that is a stupid marker. It is a stupid marker.
It is a stupid marker.
It is an official marker. It doesn't mean it's the right marker, or the best marker. That's
right.
No, and I think the medical community needs to fucking wake up, because and I want to say this is so important. Every woman is completely different. I have
Say it
never
again.
met. Every woman is completely different.
Huzzah.
Some women go the herbal Eastern medicine way, and good for them. Some people go the, Western medicine way and get on hormones, good for them. Some people just don't do anything, good for them. Everyone is different. So I am literally just sharing my own personal experience, and some of it can be relatable, but literally every woman is different. And, you know, I stopped having a period for a year, and then I got my period weirdly, you know, after a year and 4 months. And then I say to
Yeah.
the doctor, they're like, when's your last period? I told them, and they're like, oh, you're not in menopause. And I said, but I went a year and a half before that. So like, I'm
Yeah.
breaking the rules, you know.
Shocking.
But there are no fucking rules, you know. There should be
Right.
some rules. There should be some guidance, you know. And vasomotor symptoms are a real thing. Like, yes, I get hot flashes, but I also get nauseous. I also, you know, have digestive issues when I have a hot flash. I don't know whether to puke or shit my pants. You know what I mean? And this is what happens. You're just kind of like, oh, there's a rumble in the jungle, and you've got to figure out what it is, you know. And just your body fucking changes. And yeah, I feel like existence is resistance right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm now getting through cougar puberty purely out of spite.
Do you feel like you're on the the downturn of it? Do you feel like you're coming out of it?
I do. I have literally just started taking hormones. So I have been like white knuckling it for the past couple years. And I tried estrogen and black Kahochi, or I don't even remember all the crap that
Kohush or something. Ashwagandha.
Lama Lama Ding Dong. I took all the herbal supplements and fish oil and primrose oil and, you know, just all the things. And if I hear one more doctor say diet and exercise will get rid of your symptoms, I'm just like, guess what? Number 11 for you. So it's just, you know,
for those of you not watching the video, number 11 means two middle fingers.
Yes. We're number one. But yeah, I mean, just things that change. You know, you have a lot of hair loss, and you could literally make a wig of this hair in my car on the floor just from my curly hair. Like, I need to sweep that thing every week, you know. And
let's talk about the myths and realities, because we put a link in. You have an amazing Cougar Puberty YouTube video with, tell me again your friend's name, because she's kind of well known. Yes. And we have put a link in, and I again beg of you to go watch it, because if you're suffering in any way, shape, or form with this, it is hysterical, but it also has a lot of information. But tell us a little bit about
and it does get positive at the end. Sorry to interrupt, but that it's where it's like, what? It's like a scary movie with some hope at the end.
Yes.
So
which
what
is
are some of the
basically
myths?
The journey of
totally.
So true.
Totally. So what are some of the myths and the realities as you have learned them to be?
The myths are just, you read it online, it's almost like being gaslit. They're like, you know, here are the symptoms, but most women go about their everyday lives and it doesn't even impact them. And they're just, you know, walking through life with kittens and rainbows. And no, that is not true. And some other myths that it's just easy breezy lemon squeezy, you know, and it's not. It affects everything. It disrupts all of your coping mechanisms, and your body is trying to find a workaround to what it's going through, and everything that you used to be able to call upon to help ain't working, you know. And so you feel kind of broken, like, who broke me? You know, and the process just chips away at all of your coping mechanisms, and it makes you feel crazy. And I think a myth is that, oh, you might feel a little bit of depression, you know, just feeling a little bit down, and that's it. And that's not true. I mean, mine was really extreme. And though I would never, ever kill myself or anything like that, I started thinking it would just be easier just to not have to deal with any of this, and nobody would miss me. You know what I mean? I mean, that's sort of like, oh, you know. And so I went to my doctor and I said, I'm going crazy and I don't know how to cope anymore. I just don't. And so she put me on an antidepressant. I've never been on one in my life. And, 5 weeks later, I wasn't crying every day. And I could tell it started working because my thinking literally switched from being self-absorbed and hating myself and just feeling like I'm under a black cloud forever. And I had a friend coming over for my 50th birthday, flying in, and I was dreading it. I just thought, I don't want to clean my house. I don't want to have to deal and take him all around, and which isn't like me. And so I woke up after taking the antidepressant for 5 weeks, and suddenly I woke up and I thought, maybe I'll make Mark a pie when he comes.
Aw,
Mm.
And it literally was just
that's
that
you.
flip,
Yeah, Amy's back.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I do remember someone saying, and obviously my feeling is I have no opinions about anything that works for people, right? And I remember someone saying antidepressant doesn't change you; it helps you be more you, because it's getting the balance right? So it's like
totally.
your balance shifted back to like, oh, this is me. That's how you know it's working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just when I wasn't self-absorbed and self-obsessed anymore, I wasn't thinking, oh, Lisa's doing that podcast. I can't do a podcast. Nobody wants to hear me do a podcast, and then went into, oh my gosh, I love Lisa's podcast. I'm going to share it with all my friends. It's just literally the switch that flips,
Yeah.
being
Makes so
so
much
in
sense.
your own black cloud to being out of it. And I just wanted to share that with people, because there might be some women going through this who are depressed, but just think that they're just having a bad day, and they can get through it because they're tough.
Right. Because that's
I-
what we do as women. We just
Right.
forge on.
Well,
I feel like, oh, go ahead.
well, no, I mean, there is a weird cultural tolerance for women suffering.
Yeah,
and so
100%.
nobody
Oh yeah.
says anything.
I mean, we have all kinds of, historical references out there to, women being crazy,
Right.
women
Hysterical.
feeling crazy, women being hysterical, like women feeling crazy, being crazy, told to just have a hysterectomy or like that'll solve
Right.
it. All these things. Like I remember like my mom did have a hysterectomy for a health reason, but she's still like, I remember right before it and after, like went through a period where we were all like, gosh, she's not herself, like, and it probably was so hard for her. And yet, because she wasn't given the language to, understand it and get some compassion. And like, I think we all just sort of white knuckled it through it with her, but that must've been so isolating, because she still did all these amazing things. She still took care of everyone. And I think of it like I live with all men. So sometimes I do feel freaking crazy, I do. And then I have to remember, oh yeah, this makes sense. This is part of the journey, and I'm not crazy. I'm, maybe overcommitted. Maybe it's a signal to do something for me. And maybe it's just my fucking hormones,
Yeah. I mean, it's so isolating. You feel so alone. You feel, well, I don't feel ashamed, but a lot of women feel embarrassed and ashamed. And, I mean, don't get me started on the whole women's health thing about periods and how it should be, out and proud, and there shouldn't be a blue liquid in commercials or anything like that. You know what I mean? And I just,
or we shouldn't have to pay for the tampons in public. Yeah.
right.
Well, and I think when you talk about shame, right, it is that also that idea of now we're moving into the crone, right? And so that feels like, oh, again, the main reason this fucking pod exists is to tell women that you could be an amazing, sexy fucking crone, right? But society will tell you, as Irina so lovely put it as a 20-year-old, if you're past 30, you're dissolving into ash, and
in Los Angeles, it's illegal to age. It really is. And,
well, fuck that shit.
I know. And I also freelance as a video producer on the red carpet, and here's the thing, here's the good thing. Here's a light at the end of the Cougar puberty tunnel, is that I'm more confident and at peace with who I am as a person, with the choices I've made. And I think that I wanted to say that this is kind of an important revelation that I had about loving yourself, because it feels like such an abstract thing. And I can remember growing up watching Oprah and you know, she's just like, you just have to love yourself, love your inner child. And I'm like, okay, Amy's inner child, I love you. Now what? You know, and I didn't get, you know, and what I realized, and I want to hear from you guys as well, like what you feel loving yourself means, but I just feel loving yourself is at peace, is being at peace with the decisions you've made. I feel it's a more concrete thing that you can understand. You know, it's the choices you've made, what has brought you up to this point, if you're a good person, you know, just all of those things. Peace with yourself means loving yourself. And self-care isn't just smelly candles. It's making decisions that you're going to be at peace with. It's saying no to things that you don't want to do and not feeling bad about it. It's honest communication and just being your authentic self, you know, and that to me is loving yourself, is just being yourself. And I think it was Naomi Wolf who said our sexuality should be our beauty, not the other way around. So the fact that we are women, no matter what we're going through, we are sexy, we are beautiful, we are walking miracles.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Carrie answer because yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, that's literally the seed of this pot, right? Is I think, and one of the reasons I love that you call it Cougar Puberty, because what we know to be true is that, you know, girls and boys are both born brave and risk takers and all the things, and then girls hit puberty. Their testosterone goes down, their estrogen goes up. Estrogen's the caring hormone. And so all of a sudden, it's not just about caring for other people, it's giving a shit what anybody else thinks.
Right.
And that becomes a really tough time. And I watched Charlotte do that. I watched her be this super confident little girl in Chicago, going out and dancing and winning all these awards as an Irish dancer. And we came to LA as a sixth grader, hitting puberty, and man, just whoom, it went down. And then, you know, it's getting better, blah, blah, blah. We won't go into Charlotte right now, but that is the thing that I realized is the upside to menopause, is now our estrogens has gone back down. Yes, we've had to suffer through all the bullshit as that happens, but because it's gone down, we still care for other people, but we just don't give a shit. We don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks about us. And that is so empowering and so amazing. Carrie, anything you want to add?
Oh, well, you said it perfectly, but it's reminding me of that also, that funny, which is a whole other episode. And I think Amy could probably even come back for that one, which is the funniest thing is that as men age, their testosterone lowers, they have more estrogen. So they get like kind of more sensitive and sweeter and more teary than they ever were. And we're just kind of like, no fucks, like, whatever. What are you so sappy about? So it is kind of a funny thing. I saw that with my grandmother, a little bit with not so much, like, I didn't see my mom become like, you know, like insensitive or anything, but I saw my dad all of a sudden get really weepy about things. And I'm seeing it with my husband where I'm just like, he's like, you know, just cares so much. And I'm thinking, it's not funny that we trade it. Like, and I remember hearing someone once saying like men are becoming women and women are becoming men. And I know it's not that simple or binary, but I do relate to it a little bit. Of like, kind of like.
Well, I mean, I definitely have the chin hairs to prove it. So
same.
Yeah.
Same. Actually, I recently just fucked, but yes. Me too.
But also I think with Charlotte too, and just being a teenager and in your 20s, you know, I was looking back and every single thing that I was told and brainwashed into thinking that was a negative about myself growing up has turned out to be the most amazing things about myself, you know.
Like, give us an example, because I love this, and I think I probably relate, but I want to hear.
So I grew up with a very sort of negative, depressive background with my dad and my brother growing up after my parents got divorced. And they were just, you know, dudes. They didn't know anything, you know, but I was accused of always having to be the center of attention. But really, I'm just an extrovert. I've always been an extrovert. I've always been really curious about people. And so being the center of attention makes me a good leader because I'm not afraid of, you know, people saying no or well or whatever. I'm just like, let's get in, let's do it, you know. And so that also just being funny it's, I was accused of like, oh, do you think up these one-liners at home all the time? And it's like, I'm not sitting at home thinking up a comedy routine. I'm just naturally, so it's like, and then also I was made to feel bad or less than because I wasn't chosen by a boy or chosen by a man to date or whatever. And I thought something was wrong with me because I wasn't chosen. And of course, now I just realize like, oh, I wasn't being offered anything better than what I was experiencing. It had nothing to do with being chosen, you know? And so why do we, when in our 20s, we just want to be chosen and oh my gosh, it's just like, no,
And
and
you weren't empowered to choose.
no,
Right.
no, I thought there was something wrong with me. And I literally thought I was doing life wrong all in my 20s and 30s because I didn't have a boyfriend and nobody was asking me out on dates, they were intimidated.
Charlotte and I are rewatching for the millionth time Sex and the City, and I watched it the first time around, and watching it as a 53-year-old versus a 20 or 30-year-old, 27, 30-year-old. I, the first time around, I was like, oh, I want to be Carrie. And now I'm like, oh, I am 100% Samantha. Like, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, bring it all in, and that to me is and so it's interesting to watch in this age and how you identify different and see different and think, bitch, please, and all that in a lot of that, watching that. So that's a fascinating experience. Anything else?
Well, no, I just wanted to know, Carrie, about you growing up and then the things that you were criticized for are actually your superpowers. So I wanted to know.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was the youngest. I was very outgoing. I wasn't necessarily always criticized for it because sometimes it worked to everyone's advantage. We flew free and because my dad was a pilot. And if there was, when you're non-rev back then, you just fill in. So if there was a middle seat alone, they were like, I was the youngest, like put Carrie in there, she'll talk to anyone. So I think sometimes I was valued for it, like,
right.
like scapegoat kind of stuff. But I do think family or like teachers or friends, like the perception I had was that I was too much, right? Like being out there was too much and I need to like fit into some sort of smaller package to be acceptable. Right. Yeah. Like just turn down the volume to fit in, to be chosen and not like mess it up, if you were. And the second, like I took all the filters off of this is what you should be, and I just let her rip. Sometimes that wasn't okay. Right. Like that was, people were like, whoa, go back, and, or turn that down. So I let that tell me, how to be until I, and what's interesting is I married someone who just likes like all of it, and I dated him in high school and then we didn't keep in touch forever. And I remember thinking that if I never saw him again, I would tell him like, you were the best boyfriend because you just liked me for who exactly I was. And so I'm glad that I ran into him again. And I did, because, here we are. But I think the point is like, I didn't value people. I almost thought less of people who liked the real me because there was something wrong with them.
Yeah, you didn't trust them.
I didn't respect them. I thought less of them, like, how could they like that? Because most people that I think I'm trying to be like wouldn't. They're telling me that this isn't okay. So something's wrong with them too. We're misfits.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Is that
it
wasn't you, Amy, too?
It wasn't conscious, but it was subconscious. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think now, I embrace all of my quirky, aspects to my personality. I am very at peace with the decisions I've made, with the way I live my life. I'm completely at peace. I mean, I'm, to be honest, going through Cougar puberty is such a hard thing that I'm still trying to run my business, good to go. I'm still trying to make a living, and I am hanging on like a loose tooth right now because of this writer's strike. And, it is really hard to, just keep going, and when you're going through Cougar puberty, it is like swimming in molasses. It is like, you just feel stuck. I joke that Triangle of Sadness isn't a movie, it's my nickname for my vagina. Just like lots of shit goes down, you know what I'm saying, when estrogen leaves the party. There's just like a lot of things emotionally, and so it's not it's not a bad thing to ask for help. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the moment that because I'm single, I've been single my whole life, I'm very independent, very self-sufficient. And but then going through this, it's like, oh shit, I'm not able to control this, you guys.
Yeah.
I
So
think that's probably why it's so important. I mean, it makes so much sense, right? Like why we want to have zero effects, why it's important to like really not work on zero effects, but really allow zero effects, because you're gonna have shitstorms you can't control. You're gonna have days that just suck. And if you are already practicing having zero effects, like you can just float through those, right? And not be in an apologetic place, because that's the last thing you should do, is be apologizing about the shit you can't control. So I like that about this. I'm also like, I don't want to forget to go back to something you said in your video that has always been huge to me. And that is like some of the facts out there, right? 98%, and that's generous. I'm pretty sure it's 100% of women are going to go through some version of this.
yes.
So let's talk about how many research dollars are out there, and does the Defense Department even spend $1 on us as compared to the percentage of men who experience erectile dysfunction and all the research dollars and even, military spending that's done there?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start raging, let's do it, because that is the single most frustrating thing in the world, is that no men would be on the earth if it weren't for ladies. And yet, women's health is completely overlooked. It isn't, when I went to my doctor when I was 49, I said, I'm going through these weird things. I think it might be menopause. And she said to me, yeah, unfortunately, the medical system doesn't really know a lot about menopause. And I looked at her and I'm just like, oh my gosh, should we call it the Guinness Book of World Records? Because I'm the first woman ever to experience symptoms. Should someone study me? Like, what the fuck? Women have been around forever. What is your problem? And it's the patriarchy. And, it's so layered. And, when we're talking about going back and being chosen, well, what is being chosen? And why is that so celebrated, and why is that so important, and who made the idea of what beauty is for women? And women are I read something that like actresses and actors are like 0.01% of the population. Like America is normal, we're not all supermodels, and me working on the red carpet, trust me, I mean, I've seen some skinny ass celebrities, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just like, wait a minute, well, who said this is what we have to be? This is what we have to look like. This is what we have to feel. This is how we have to respond. It's no.
Well, and it's interesting because we talked about this in our episode with Carrie Peters around this idea of role models and youth, right? And it was one of the things I think I was most surprised about coming out to LA. My story around LA was I refused. My husband would come out here all the time for movie things, and he'd come home and say, we got to move to LA. And I was like, hell to the no, am I moving to LA? Because in my mind, it was a bunch of fucking skinny bitches walking around. And I was like, I'm not bringing a daughter up in that. I don't want to put myself in that. And then I came out here and I was like, oh shit, like everybody's normal looking. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. And so that really shocked me. And then going back to the idea of women putting up with in our health, what we are asked to put up with, I think about, I have an IUD. And one of the reasons I haven't gotten it out is I am fearful of the pain. I've gotten a few already taken out and re-put in. And TMI, but they can't find the one I have right now. Not going to get into that story. But that means to me that when it comes out, it is going to hurt like hell. And there is no anesthesia for that. They just pull that fucker out. And if I want to get anesthesia, I have to pay extra for it. And my husband's like, we'll do whatever we need to do. And I'm like, thank you. But that's insanity.
It
Men
is.
would never have to put
No.
up with that shit,
No.
ever.
No.
And we
No.
advocate for ourselves, even to women doctors. And they're like, meh, sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So this is why I'm in a constant state of rage.
Also,
Can
the
I-
estrogen's gone.
Can I just
Yeah.
share, just to go back to this, can I just share, because I did pull it up from the Guardian, and there's many articles about there.
Also, I'm sweating
Night-
again. I just need you to
night-
know that.
I have to have the like air turned off up here to hear each other. So like, yeah, I'm suffering for the cause. So and for Portland, it's like, 80 something today. So it's kind of hot.
Yeah.
19%, according to the Guardian, and according to, national research, 19% of men experience erectile dysfunction. There is
Wow.
5 times more research dollars spent on addressing it and solving it than there are on any female reproductive or menopausal things. I think there's probably almost 10 times more than on menopause, right? So so there's that, right? And there's like billions in defense money for 19% of people. And the other thing that I don't know if you guys have ever, I cannot remember the author right now, and hopefully I will by the time we post this, but there's like 2 books, The Female Brain and The Male Brain. And I remember just like throwing the book and being pissed because there's so less known about the female brain, because in science, they were like, it's just too complicated because their menstrual cycles mess it all up. So we can't really get good findings. And you're like, what the fuck? And so like this encapsulates it beautifully. Given that in the US, which produces, and again, this is from the Guardian article, which produces a lot of medical research trials weren't required by National Institutes of Health to include women until 1993. The lack of knowledge is perhaps no surprise. Traditionally, this was justified by the idea that women's bodies were seen as too complex due to fluctuating hormones. I said too complex and high. So clinical trials often excluded them so they could have clean findings.
Well, you know that they tried a birth control pill on men, but then they stopped it because the men were experiencing
I
tricky
know.
side effects, you guys.
I know, so sad.
So, oh, my tummy's a little upset. I feel a little nauseous. I have a headache, you guys, and also I'm concerned about, this is what when I run the world and I am president, it's just one of those things where women are allowed to retire at the age of 50. Only because of all the bullshit we go through because of our reproductive organs. If you think of how many times we have been ill from our periods, had to go to work, had to go to school, had to go to phys ed class, had to play softball, had to go swimming, when you feel like complete ass, you know what I mean? And then you've got childbirth for people who give birth, not me by choice. So that's a whole foreign thing, but it's hard. It's life threatening and your body goes through it. And then you go through menopause, and these are extreme changes. And in Britain, in the UK, they are actually doing a lot of good shit over there because they're allowing you to have sick days due to menopause. They're allowing you to take mental health days because of menopause. They are coming out in the open and saying this is an issue. And so we just have to get on board the Cougar Puberty train, and just be there for our sisters of all ages, and just know that you're not doing life wrong. You're not doing anything wrong.
And this weaves together so many of our topics. Like, you don't have to say sorry for having a brain bubble. You don't have to explain that that you're sweating and you just not available anymore. Like for whatever you said yes to. There's so much to this, right? There's so much to just giving less fucks and only giving a shit about like what's important for you for that day or that time. And I think that's what, like, just talking about it more and demanding that there's more research going into this because it affects everyone. And I mean, there's a lot of more information in that article, by the way, about how much money goes into diabetes or to cardiovascular, or all really important things, but they don't affect 100% of half of the population. Right. So it's shocking that we are just meant to grit our teeth, grin and bear it. And then we and I said to Lisa earlier, I think I texted her, fuckable or unfuckwithable, right? Because like we've all
Both.
seen like that funny Amy Poehler video where she gets welcomed
Yeah.
into this
Schumer.
older version. Oh, Amy Schumer, sorry. I don't know why I said Amy Poehler. Amy Schumer, another great Amy. Lots of great
Mhm.
Amy's. Getting welcomed in by these awesome older actresses about how, oh,
Yeah,
you've reached
Julie
the end.
Louis-Dreyfus, Tina Fey, yeah.
Yes. I think Patricia Arquette or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, oh, you've reached the unfuckable age. What? Like you're not only going to be cast in roles that where people, see you as maternal and all that. And then I thought, no, like, what if it's unfuckwithable? Like, what if it's just this whole idea of like, screw you and screw this narrative. This is the sexiest time of our lives, even if we smell like chives.
No, it's that rhymes.
Chives.
I should put that in the song. But
Oh, good. I so badly want to be in your band. So.
yeah. But I also want to talk about like the going through Cougar puberty has also given me a weird confidence about myself because one of my favorite quotes is from Ian Van Zandt, when you argue with reality, you will suffer, And so when my mom died, she was overweight, and I was really struck by the fact that every day she was tormented by her own weight and her choices for eating. And she used that energy to berate herself, to feel bad about herself. And when she died, I just thought, so much energy is wasted. So much life energy is wasted on these pointless arguments, and it's like when I was growing up, I just wanted to be pretty with blue eyes and straight hair. I've got hazel eyes and naturally curly hair. So
which is gorgeous.
Thank you. I love it now. I did have a Brazilian blowout for a while, but it made me miss my naturally curly hair, made me appreciate it because you always want something you don't have. And so I had straight hair for a couple of years, but then I missed my naturally curly hair, And so I just want to maybe pose the question to people watching, the women watching, like, what are your pointless arguments? Like Margaret Cho, I saw an interview with comedian Margaret Cho, and she said that she always fantasized about being a white lady because she thought it would be like being at a spa all the time. And it always made me laugh, but then it really made me sad because she is, she's not Caucasian. And so wanting something that is pointless, that's arguing with reality, is going to make you suffer. And so my pointless arguments were, I'm not pretty, I'm not lovable, I'm not choosable. But now I'm like, I am no fucks, a bull. That kind of thing,
Well, and we referenced this, Carrie and I, at an earlier pod, but you and I, Amy, have had the experience of owning this, right? Everything you're saying, right? You and I have gone out together. And what has been fascinating is the energy we bring to an event when we're together. It's like moths to a flame of other women coming up to us and wanting to meet us and wanting to, and literally the first words out of there, it's actually, there's two phrases. The first words out of their mouth are always, I love your outfit, to you, because you're always wearing something really cool and funky. And I'm pretty cool and funky, but yours is always like one notch above, and then they get to talking to the two of us, and it's always like, oh my God, I love your energy. Oh my God, la, la, la. And we have just remarked on the fact that it is because of how we show up in the world at this stage of our life. We both are at the point, I grew up wanting curly hair, and I have stick straight hair. Right. I'm a brunette, but you wouldn't know it. So all those things that we tried to do or wanted, and we're either making it happen for ourselves and we're happy, or we're showing up however we are and we're happy. And that energy is so fucking attractive to men, to women, to humans,
Totally.
Yeah, true. And I would always say, maybe you want to sit next to Naomi Campbell because she's gorgeous, but you're going to have more fun if you sit next to me at dinner. That's all I'm saying.
100%.
And, with that intention of, and I remember when we went to that weird miracle event where we were magnets, it was just a freak of nature, we intended, I was just like,
We did.
okay, we may not be rich art people, but we can out energy any of these motherfuckers in here,
And
so
we
let's
did.
fucking shine, and literally people were coming up. I had to say hello, and when
Yeah.
you and I are together, and a total stranger taps one of us on the shoulder, you and I are like, okay, here it goes.
Yep.
Here it goes,
Yep. That's about time. Yep. This feels right. This tracks.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. And that gets us to this part that we wanted to get to, which is the good parts. You guys are highlighting the good parts. The good parts
No
about
periods.
no fucks
Amazing.
left. No
No.
periods is awesome.
No.
Not, not having this like literal biological push to take care of everyone, like there's these like really wonderful parts of this, and it's this chance to just inhabit your body sometimes for the first time and get out of your head that's thinking about all the things you should think about, and literally be here and be like, I like it here, I like her, this is great, and I can do nothing or I can do anything and it's fine. And to your quote, that beautiful quote, I was going to say, in the coaching world, Lisa and I always have this saying of that which you resist persists.
Right.
Stop resisting what is. There is like high chance it's going to go away because it has nothing to sink its teeth into. So, or it's going to just matter so little that it won't even be noticeable anymore. But the more you focus on it and the more you like, all your time and energy goes to that. And just hearing you say that right now about your mom, which is, obviously heart-wrenching and beautiful too, is all of us. It's just, I think that's the thing as coaches, Lisa and I talk to people a lot, is when you get to that place, it's tempting to regret all the time you wasted. And we also invite you to let that go too. Like, 10 years ago, you did the best she fucking could, and she was doing pretty great. So don't now say, God, I wish she didn't care so much. Like, it's awesome she cared so much. A lot of people benefited from it. But now what's going to happen when you like get to turn it all inward and let everybody enjoy the overflow?
It was so weird after my mom died. I almost felt like her soul kind of braided with mine and kind of pumped up my confidence. Like I had a secret angel always on my side supporting me, so just kind of mentally having her kind of back me up in a cosmic sense gave me more confidence to be myself. And that process made me evolve into the woman that my mom saw and loved. She would always be like, you're so beautiful, Missy. Oh my gosh, you're so amazing. You can manifest that, Missy. You're an 8 in numerology. You're an 8 life path. You can manifest that, and all of that stuff, and so I just feel like, oh, I'm not going to waste time thinking that I'm, a few pounds overweight or I've got tummy fat because menopause or whatever, I'm not, I'm healthy. Health is your wealth. I am a spiritual supermodel on the walkway of life. You know what I mean? And it's just like, come on, now's the time, and that's a chance. There's a lot of ageism, especially in LA and Hollywood as well. Like it's hard to get jobs out there, but I worked as a freelancer on the red carpet, and I was telling Lisa, here I am interviewing Charlize Theron and, Kerry Washington and all these women who are amazing, Jennifer Aniston, they're amazing and beautiful, but I feel just as amazing and just as beautiful when I'm interviewing them because I'm wearing my dopamine dressing and my sparkly boots and, and
they always comment.
And they always comment. They're like, oh, hey, boots, hey, dress, hey, or whatever. And so it's just like, come on, I'm living out loud. That sounds like a cheesy 70s show tune of some sort. But I've never been happier. And also I want to say too, because I have been through so much shit and so many women have been through so much shit by the time they're in their 50s, and I'm 54 right now. We're motherfucking spiritual warriors. To have to go through parents dying, the chaos of illness, kid stuff, everything, just life.
Yeah.
We are spiritual warriors. And I feel on a good day that I'm on top of the mountain,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I don't shine if you don't shine. Let's all fucking rock this shit,
Yeah.
a good day, on a good day.
The interesting thing about that, and I don't want to slide backwards into the fuck this is unfair part, but is like the age that it's happening are when all those losses start to happen. It's like, what? Like I didn't, like all the tests happen at the same time, right? So, like we have teenagers, for those of us who, breeded, who breeded. So like we have teenagers around the time this is happening, and like, whoa, the hormones. I remember when we were with quarantine, like when COVID happened and we were in quarantine, and my youngest was, I guess, 14 at the time. Gosh, yeah, 14. And he was like, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I have energy, sometimes I don't. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, that's normal. It's called hormones. Like, actually, you just described teenage boys and middle-aged women. And because my husband worked in a hospital and couldn't stay with us at the time because we didn't know better, he goes, that's all we have in this house.
I mean,
so true. Like,
try going through menopause while you have a daughter going through puberty.
right.
That's fun.
Oh, yeah. So like there's that, but then even like in Amy's case, like going through it while you're losing your parents and while we're just fine, when you finally get to adulthood and you're like, I'm faking it really well, because we are, spoiler alert, we're all kind of faking it and like figuring it out. Right when you get to a place like, I got this, here's some hormone punches for you.
Well,
so I think the timing of it is just cosmically either funny or uncool or both.
Super mean.
It is. And I was really good friends with my mom's best friend, Maggie. And I remember, my entire family died in a 4-year period. And also I had to deal with my granny being in elder care. And then, crazy Jerry Springer relatives taking me to court after she died. And just, it was just like trauma. And then after all that was done, I said to my friend Maggie, I'm like, whew, I am ready for a break. I am ready for just smooth sailing from now on. And Maggie just looked at me and she just went, oh no, that's not going to happen. And I thought, that's mean of you. And then menopause hit and Cougar Puberty visited. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is another ride. Okay. So yeah, it's just and if you don't know how you're going to get through something, you don't have to know how.
Mm-hmm.
You just will.
Yeah.
Your soul is always propelling you forward, and you just have to kind of let go and let flow. You know what I mean?
Which is why I'm so glad you're here talking about it while we're doing this. Because you're right, you don't have to know, but if you can connect and know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And give yourself permission and reminders that you're lovable no matter how shitty of a day you're having or how sweaty you are. You're lovable. You're amazing. And just as you are. You can be like a raving lunatic and you're still lovable and you're still amazing.
Totally. And even when you're hot flashes and you get the fans, your life can be like a Beyonce video at all.
Again, I invite you to watch the YouTube of this because it's a whole thing. It's a whole vibe.
Can you put it on the way it's supposed to work? I'm just curious what it looks like. I don't want to
get tangled in my hair because that would be really
cool. My gosh.
I know, isn't it amazing?
That's amazing.
It works. I'm telling you. Like, hey.
I might need that if I work up here again.
Sorry, audio.
I move all around the house. Lisa's always in the same beautiful spot. And I'm, because I live in a house full of humans, teenagers and all that. Like I'm always like in some corner of the house recording.
I want to presence one more time before we wrap this up that we've talked a lot about sort of some of the very typical symptoms of Cougar puberty and presencing the fact that it's called menopause and there's no man and no pause. I'm forever not going to call it that ever again. But I want you to all, and we will put a link on our social media. The link is in the show notes. I want you to go watch the YouTube video because again, you talk in there about so many other symptoms that you may think you're getting through menopause free and clear or cougar puberty free and clear. And there's lots of things, like some of the things that, you presenced in there for me was like the joint issues that I have that I just am like,
menopausal hip.
Yeah, menopausal hip. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I have it.
Seriously. And read the comments. I learned from the comments
I remember
from the
you saying
video that we
yeah.
made. I was like, oh my God, I have that. Wait, what?
Yeah, I think that's reading to the comments. I think it's just like you have some extreme ones, and bless you. And some people are lucky not to have so many extreme ones, but they have other horrible ones, right?
Yeah.
And some people aren't experiencing the mental, but they might, or the physical, but they are having all the mental and emotional ones. And
see, they're not sleeping. I mean, I've never had a problem with sleeping, or so just
that is 100% my struggle. So everyone's got their own different things. So let's all just be really cool to each other, please.
I know. And don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Just don't, because it's going to take women saying in their outside voices what they're going through and sharing it, And so, I had a millennial friend that's just like, oh, why don't you just make a video that says I'm never fucked or something like that, And I was like, what?
And because also, again, that's not true with everyone.
I know.
Right? Like other people, everybody has, to go back to your one thing I made you say already, women are not all the same. We are not a monolith. Each one of us is having our own experience. Men too, right? Like men have their own individual experience. Yes, we generalize. Yes, and the patriarchy is just as bad for men as it is for women.
Yep.
So, but our individual experiences are individual experiences. So the song that we will throw on the webs or on our playlist, the Things We Know playlist that is on Spotify that anybody can listen to, and you can just hit the little, plus sign and you'll get access to it. And every week we upload the song. So we will add changes from Bowie because the song you want to quote doesn't exist yet. So would you love to give the backstory and then quote the song for today?
So I have a friend of mine, I'm friends with lots of musicians, and a friend of mine was doing a songwriting workshop in Joshua Tree, and I was reading about that. And then we were talking about Cougar Puberty, and I went to bed, and then I had a dream that Lisa and I were in a Cougar punk rock band, and with her daughter Charlotte helping us write a song. And what made me laugh the hardest was that we were trying to come up with a name for our group, and Charlotte and Lisa came up in my dreams with the Hormones, WHORE Moans, MOANZ.
Oh my God.
I'm not into that because I'm not a whore, but yeah, it just made me laugh. And so I remembered 4 lyrics. And let me preface this by saying I've never written a song in my life. I'm not a musician. I'm not a songwriter, but I remembered 4 lyrics, and then I went ahead and wrote some more. So this is
awesome.
This is my punk rock anthem / poetry slam. If you can imagine, like the Lady Ramones.
What am I playing? I feel like I want to play bass. Can I play bass?
You can totally play bass.
Okay, cool.
I might have the guitar. I don't know.
Okay.
No,
well, if I can't be in your band, I'm like right there in the front row going like this. Yeah.
Totally. So this is called Miss Estrogen. Miss Estrogen, the war against my ovaries, no memory of my memories. The past is just a fantasy that feels like an eternity. Miss Estrogen, where you been? I miss estrogen. I got thin skin. Miss Estrogen, where you been? My bones are weak, my hip is sore, and what the fuck, my pelvic floor? I'm not missing the flow, but it's burning down below. When you were in my snatch, don't need no cream or patch. Miss Estrogen, where you been? Miss Estrogen, I miss estrogen. Welcome to Invisible. My rage is incredible. Cold nights, hot flash. Society turns me to ash. Your love is gone and so is my brain. You left too soon and I'm insane. Myth Estrogen, where you been? There's no blue pill to ease this trip. I find it hard to cope. The world cares more about a limp dick than giving women hope. Miss Estrogen, where you been? I miss Estrogen. It's been a bloody long time since you were mine. Miss Estrogen, how dare we age, Miss Estrogen? We're filled with rage, Miss Estrogen. Miss Estrogen, where you been? I miss Estrogen.
Oh my God, snaps. I just need everyone to know that Carrie and I were laughing hysterically, silently through that whole thing because we did not want you to miss a fucking lyric. Okay. Amy,
Oh my
I would
God.
love, and I will text you about this, but could you please film that and send it to me so we can put this up on social media? Because in case they don't listen, this will be the thing. You have got to watch this pod, listen to this
Okay.
pod.
Okay.
This fucking song is everything.
I mean, let's put it to music next time I'm over at the Callahans.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Oh yeah,
Ready.
absolutely. Oh my
I-
gosh.
grab a bass.
I see this song going viral.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you two ladies for providing such a beautiful platform to share my crazy experiences, whether it's planning for death, whether it's grieving or cougar puberty. I think what you guys are doing for women of all ages is just a beautiful thing, open-hearted, true intended, and just I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. I just want everyone to feel less alone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
what we
you.
want. And thank you for being our guest. I am 100% sure we'll figure out another reason to bring you back.
No kidding. Gosh.
Every time I listen to the podcast, I'm like, I have 5 points I need to make.
I've had so many people say, I'm talking back to you guys. As you're saying
I
this, I'm
know.
talking back to you.
Yes.
And that's what we always say. These are the things we know, and we know there's so much more to the conversation that we want people to, educate us around too, because that's how this all gets richer. So please reach out and tell us your points.
And if this is one of those pods where you're like, holy shit, every woman I know, young or old, needs to hear this, the call to action this week is share this pod.
Yes.
Share this episode, and then have your friends binge the ones before this, because this one to me is so important. Yes, we've come at this from a sense of humor because that's all we know, and why not? But really, between the video you have on YouTube, which again is in the show notes, and then this conversation, I think every woman feels like they're going through this alone. It reminds me of another version of postpartum. I mean, so many women don't talk about that. And it is so important for you all to know that what you're going through is completely normal. Every one of us goes through it differently. And we are here to say, you're good.
Yes.
And ask for the help, advocate for yourself, because the more we advocate for ourselves, the more likely it is shit will change.
Right. And when this drops, like we've already talked about, we've started talking about it a week before, we have more to come. But I think obviously there's no way that this isn't going to weave itself into ongoing episodes here and there, from one lens or another, because we're all on this journey with you all. Yeah. And I think I've probably said it before, but the irony is when this all started, we were like, we got you. And I thought I was through the hard part and I hadn't even begun to get on that fucking roller coaster. So, that's the funny part is, it's like a house of mirrors. And when we're in it together, it just makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah,
it is. And you got to have a sense of humor, because I mean, that's the thing that got me through everything,
Yeah.
Grief, sadness, everything, sense of humor always.
Yeah.
And as I was trying to do self-care in my cougar puberty, I want to just leave you with one funny thing. A friend of mine was recommending a weighted blanket to help me sleep. And I said, ooh, is it going to be like Jason Momoa laying on top of me? And she said, it's a weighted blanket, not a miracle blanket.
True.
You either had me or lost me at that. Ooh.
I know, at first I was like, oh my God, when I'm hot, a weighted blanket sounds horrifying. Jason Momoa, not so much. I can figure out how to make that one work.
Yeah, just turn on a fan and
if you're watching this.
Yeah, you and Jason Momoa and the fan. Oh my gosh, I would love to keep going, and we will in some other ways, and we will definitely have Amy back because you are multifaceted. But that's it for this week's episode. So if you want to follow Amy or laugh along with her in her viral video about cougar puberty, check out the show notes. And also remember that she is also the amazing person who brought Good to Go, which is about the things that come later.
Exactly.
Hopefully, if you're lucky, right? Because this is a privilege to be here. And while you're there, leave a comment because we do want to hear your stories. We do, like Amy said, the comments in her viral video, that we're all educating each other and making it all okay. So please leave a comment in our social media or wherever you're following us with any thoughts or questions you have about you and your experience. And so long until next week's episode. I'm really, really, really glad you guys were all here. This was so fun, and I'm glad we made it work with your internet.
Yep,
Thank
it worked.
you.
Second time was a charm. Yes, thanks everyone for listening. And again, if this resonated with you, please follow the pod and share this with someone because this is an important topic and we're so happy you're here. And again, thanks Amy for being here. See you next week. Bye.
Hey. Bye.